criticizing people. But I would suggest to you, it's better in America to have passionate debate about issues, regardless of what political party you're in, than to be a nation of sheep, be lethargic, and not feel excited about anything. Very, very important to discuss and debate those things, I think. That's a good question. Yes, Pete?
Yeah, Rick, do you have any suggestions to us as a club on how we can get to the media, like if we have events, to try and get some publicity? Because we're always looking for publicity or get the word out.
I think two ways. Number one, remember the generational breakout I gave you. No offense intended because of the hours they work and the salaries they make, but most reporters, you know, between the ages of, you get out of school at 22, 23, between the ages of 25 and 30 are not interested in the Rotary Club or the Kiwanis Club or anything else. It's just not there. They're interested in the sports club. And that's the way we all were when we were 25. So I would say, consider your programs, and you have a very comprehensive list of what was passed around a few moments ago. And generally, they're service, they're educational, they're beneficial to the community, just as the objectives of your club are. I would say, go first to the Sunday editions. The Sunday is the thickest paper, Monday is the thinnest, because of the advertisement. There's usually a 40-60% ratio between news and advertising. So for every 4 pages of news, you're going to have 6 pages of ads. But that's where your very specific information can be on a Saturday or a Sunday, particularly a Sunday. And you'll find in there a religious editor. You'll find in there a smaller slices of life than you find in the Monday to Friday issues. The second thing is I would not dismiss, you know, the YouTube and some of the social media, because if you think about it, it's how people spend their time. And I think the Rotarians and the people that share your values probably have the discretionary time to follow something that's online. The third one I would suggest, and this one, I use this one all the time, is cable television. I frequently spend a lot of time. If you go through your Cox or your Verizon, whatever you got there, you will find just a myriad of special interest channels. You know, there's the antique channel, there's a sports channel, there's the cultural channels. And I know you have an international presence with Rotary for sure. But for example, I've done shows on Darshan television, you know, for India. There's a large Indian population in this area. There's a Vietnamese channel, several African channels. So I would look at who you want to reach. Certainly you have an international aspect to the Rotary goals. And I would look at the cables. The cables are another good way where you, for free, you know, get about 15, 20 minutes to go out and talk about all of your programs. The second thing that does is you ask them for free when it's over with, because you're giving them your time. You just say, hey, can I get a copy of that particular show or tape, or, you know, tape it yourself at home. Then what you have at the end of the year is a roll-up, a visual roll-up, and kind of a journal of what you've accomplished that year. But to answer your question, I would go with the cables. They're always begging for programming. The other one that I think is not often used, that I use a whole lot, is all of the colleges and universities in this area invariably have a radio or a television station. And it's like an old Mickey Rooney film, you know? Let's have a circus. Let's have a show. I got a dog, you got a cat. Let's go to the garage, you know? This one can do hoops, this one can ride a bike. You know, you kind of put it together. And that's the story of a college television or a college radio show. They're good for about 2 programs. And then they realize they got classes, they got midterms coming up, they got a date on Saturday, and there's a big football game tailgate. So they are left with empty programming space. And so if you went to American, which is a very good school for international culture over by Tenley, George Mason is a wonderful school. I speak at their communications department all the time. Any of these schools, George Washington's another one, if you go to them, they're going to have a radio and TV station, and they'd love to have you come in and sit down and talk about it. Those are just a few thoughts that I have used. Yes, ma'am.
Mind if I chime in a couple
San Diego, yes.
I don't know.
Top Gun.
I don't. Yeah. I don't know what the trend is in the DC area, but we're finding in California that there's at the high school level more and more of a requirement to volunteer as part of the graduation curriculum. Right. And so I think that the Interact clubs become that much more important because of it. So in terms of bringing in new blood, younger membership, just a couple of thoughts come to mind. One is to reach out to those interacts and see if Rotary can be that avenue of volunteer service. And then the other is just to remember how differently these kids process information. And I have to continually remind myself when I'm working with younger people that, my assistant is 23 years old, and she is so out of the box sometimes compared to me. She's reading my mind, she's doing things before I'm thinking about it, she's telling me what to do, and she's usually right. And then just one other thing is get a Facebook page, do Twitter. I mean, that's, if you're wanting to reach the kids, you've got to have that online media going.
Good ideas. Two thoughts on that. 12 years ago, I started an intern program at MPRI. You're looking at the whole communications department, so I needed some legs. And so what I did is I went back to South Carolina, and they had a practicum program where the kids, their last semester, when they were finishing their master's, had to spend 6 months in the real world. And they got credit for it, and they had to write a paper and this and that. So I said, do you have any kids that live in this area, Northern Virginia, Maryland, or whatever, who don't want to go back and forth to Columbia? And I found one or two. Bottom line is I've had 23 interns now, in the last 12 years. And they're really not interns, they really become apprentices. And so the way I approach what was said is that it's a symbiotic relationship. I give them the wisdom of the workplace, and they give me the currency of the classroom. There are certain principles in marketing, messaging, and communications and all that won't change. The medium may change, but they will bring me the currency of how to do it. So that updates what I had when I was getting my master's. But I give them the wisdom of the workplace. How do I ask for a raise? How do I, as a 23-year-old woman, work for a 45-year-old woman who was threatened by my intelligence, threatened by my energy, and threatened by everything else? And these are things they don't get in school. All of them were women, because young ladies at 23 or 24 are light years ahead of men at 23 or 24. And they all know that. So it has been a tremendous benefit. 7 or 8 out of the group that I've had became full-time employees at MPRI. And now they have their own little alumni group, and they have families and things like that. But I think apprentice programs, intern programs are very, very good within your corporation, within your group. And I think the second thing is don't dismiss scouting. My dad was the scoutmaster, and I was Order of the Arrow, and capture the beavers and all of those things. But they have their merit badges, and some of their merit badges are community service, service to the nation, service at home, service oriented, and their goals and objectives for Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and boys clubs and girls clubs. I would focus that, particularly in the region that we live. If there's inner city or neighborhoods where we can help do the servicing, because you're changing lives, you're impacting, the youngsters that come along, and they'll amaze you. And one more point I have found with them as well, the one thing this generation lacks is methodology. They don't have a number 2 pencil. They wouldn't know what one looks like. And so it's easier for them to use a GPS, to go from here to the stadium, rather than to get out a map or to actually make a recon or the things we may have done. The second thing is you can ask them for the capital of Iowa, and they'll get you the capital. But they can't tell you whether Iowa is next to Wisconsin, Illinois, etc. So where you can help and where they can be helped educationally is context. I find they're great kids. My former principal over here will tell you they just don't have context, and it's because it's just easier and more convenient not to have to go look it up, not to have to go race to the library and get that book out, by Hawthorne before somebody else does, because there's only 3 copies. If you think Cliff Notes was a shortcut, what they do is even worse. And so we can help them that way, just in the learning process and the methodology. Because it is fun going through the process. I think to write the term paper, to write the paper, prepare the report, give the presentation, the pain and anguish you go through in the research and rehearsals and all that gives you more satisfaction. I don't think you get a whole lot of satisfaction if you just go to here, hit enter, save, and all of a sudden you've got the solution. I don't think you get much out of that. Kind of like the Olympians you see around here. You know, you spend 4 years trying to run 10 seconds and 100 yards. That's a lot of sacrifice. A lot of sacrifice. Great questions. And I hope I haven't gone too long. I know you all got jobs. So, thank you. I really appreciate being with you. And any way I can help you, please let Pete know, and I'm happy to do it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And we have a tradition here where we present our
Great.
commented
Thank you very much. I'll cherish this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.